Well, good morning. How are you today? All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. My name is Jason, like Pastor Pete mentioned before, and I'm so honored to be here. I woke up this morning and went outside and was shocked because I've lived in Tampa, Florida for 5 years now, to where cool weather doesn't exist. And so I walked outside, and it was cool. Now, I grew up in Michigan, so I'm used to the cold and snow and all of that kind of stuff. But it is so great to be in North Carolina. It's so great to be in St. Mark's. I've been praying for you for a long time and honored to be a guest this morning with you. I want to start by asking you a question. You ever had a moment where someone could have just obliterated you with their words? Maybe they had the right to say what they said. Maybe they had the right to say what they were about to say. Or maybe they had the right to say it without a filter. But have you ever been in that situation where you've been on the receiving end of just words that came to you that were so harsh, so unkind, so powerful? It happened to me. Now, listen, there was a moment on the opposite of that where the person could have shared all of those kind of harsh words. They could have spoke at me, and they didn't. And that moment sticks out. It was in 1996. Yes, the 1900s. Horse and buggies. It was, you churn your own butter. It was incredible, the 1900s. But I had fallen in love with a woman. I knew she was going to be my wife someday. She didn't. I had much convincing to do, much begging. But when I got to that point, I wanted to ask her dad if I could marry her. Now, listen, her dad was somebody who I didn't know very well, but he was very different than me. And I grew up in the city of Detroit. He was out in the middle of nowhere in the country. And so I had, in my head, this is what I viewed my father-in-law to be like. ChatGPT really went crazy for me here. But that was it in my head. I imagined him kind of being that angry and that vicious. And it turns out, I'll tell you in the story, the opposite happened. But we went to their farm for a family party. He had bought this old farm with 50 acres so he could, not have to go anywhere and just be away from people. And we went to a family party, and during a lull in the family party, I thought this is the best time. I am going to go ask him if I can marry his daughter. Now, this is a very scary thing. I have 2 daughters. It has not happened to me yet, but this is a difficult thing to be able to do. So there's a lull. I walked up to him. I said, "Sir, could we have a conversation?" He goes, "Yeah, let's go on the front porch." So I'm breathing. I'm trying to do my breathing exercises. I'm trying to be brave. And once we get to the front porch, he goes, "Why don't we go for a walk?" And I was like, "No, that's not part of the plan." I mean, this man had knives and bows and, deer everywhere, a hat that he made from a rabbit that he killed. I'm not going anywhere with you. Let's stay close. So we go for a walk, and he won. And I'm really good at a couple of things in life. I'm really good at a couple of things. One, I'm really good at loving Tom Brady. I just have, whether you hate him or you don't. I'm really good at loving Hootie and the Blowfish. I'm really good. Those of you under 30 or under 40, you're probably like, who is Hootie and the Blowfish? But I'm very good at loving them, and I'm also very good at sweating, and I do it really well. My kids remind me all the time, and so we're walking on this walk. My potential father-in-law to be, and I'm sweating. And I'm nervous, and I get a panic attack, and we finally get to the end of the property. I notice that there is a rectangle hole dug with a shovel. I'm like, I don't know why that hole is there. But I try to speak, and words just aren't coming out of my mouth. They're just nothing intelligent, nothing. So finally I say something like, "Your daughter is the most amazing woman I've ever met. I would love your permission to marry her." And I don't know how it came out. And he looked at me through that big giant beard and all that flannel. He wears flannel for a living. And he looks at me and he goes, I thought that's what you were going to ask. And he paused, and I'm like waiting, and I'm like, am I going to end up in the hole? Like, what's going to happen here? I don't know what's going on. And he goes, I guess she can't do worse. I was like, all right. So I take it we're not going to be best friends then. And he said, but it was a yes. So we're on our way back to the house. I'm floating. I'm so excited. We get back to the house, and I have not proposed yet, but Tracy was like, hey, did everything go all right? And I was like, yeah, it's good. But because of my gift of sweating, I asked my future mother-in-law if I could take a shower, and so she's like, yes. So I go upstairs in this old 100-year-old farmhouse. It's like a tiny little bathroom, tiny little shower with like a bucket. I mean, it's just a thing. Now, before I do the shower, not to get, too personal with you, I used the facility, and something happened to me that had never happened in the history of my life. It became possessed. It literally became possessed. I mean, I went through 4 years of middle school, 5 years of high school. They never taught me anything about possessed toilets, and it started to shake. The whole thing just started to shake, and I start to run, and then it starts to gurgle and make all these noises, and before I could do anything, I kid you not, the toilet cracked in half. Like, it just cracked in half. Water is coming everywhere. Again, these are the best ChatGPT could do, because we didn't have cameras in the 1900s, so I couldn't take a picture of it. And I don't know what to do. Water is going everywhere. And so I grab a Dixie cup, and I'm like trying to little washcloth. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I was like, I need my dad, because my dad can fix anything. And the family cat came walking by, so I grabbed the cat. I'm trying to use the cat as a mop. I don't know what to do. So I run downstairs. He's sitting on the couch, sharpening his teeth with the longest knife I'd ever seen. There's 5 deer behind him staring at me, and a moose and an elk and a little tiny bunny. I was like, who does that? And I say, sir, there's a problem in the bathroom. And he goes, oh, there's a plunger. I said, we're past plunger. Plunger was phase number 1. We're so past plunger. At this time, he was renovating the ceilings in the living room. And at this time, water starts to drip through, and it hits the old ceiling fan, and it starts to just whip the toilet water around, and it hits him in the forehead. And he's like, what did you do? I kid you not, at this point, the family cat had got in the kayak and was kayaking down the stairs. There was just so much water. Again, ChatGPT did pretty well there. So we come running upstairs. There's water everywhere. He has the moment of all moments. He could just obliterate me with his words. What did you do? What happened? I mean, he could just he could lay into me at a level that is probably on, his right to be able to do that. And he paused. Well, and he did something that I think they should teach you in school. Somehow I missed that there's a little knob behind the toilet, and you just turn it off, and the water magically disappears. So he does that. Then he pauses, and he looks at me, and he goes, well, it's not the end of the world. We'll get it cleaned up. And there's a picture you can see there. He's not as scary as I made him out to be. And he's actually a pretty wonderful man, and I'll tell you more about him. But he could have let loose with his words. He could have berated me. He could have ripped me up and down. But at that moment, he chose a different path. Instead of speaking at me, he spoke with me. Instead of at, he spoke with. And I wonder for you and I, how many times when we're presented with a moment where we could speak at people, do we choose to speak at, or do we choose to speak with? Do we speak with? There's a proverb in Proverbs 9, and in the Message version, I'll read this one first, and then I'll read the NIV. It says, the mouth of a good person is a deep, life-giving well, but the mouth of the wicked is a dark cave of abuse. In the NIV, it says, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. A fountain of life. The problem is, you and I, we speak We communicate, we talk all day long. Researchers actually show us it's about 90% of our day is communication. And it's not just words, it's our tone, it's our body language, it's through texting, it's through emails, it's through videos. We communicate all of the time. And what happens is we take that communication for granted. And sometimes we get into a rut where we think, it's just how I communicate. I can communicate however I want to. I can speak at people. And so often, sometimes we choose the path where we berate, we yell, we manipulate, we talk down, we interrupt. We're preoccupied. We don't share the truth. We make fun of, we obliterate, we spew hurtful words like they mean nothing. And we think that way because we speak so many of them. Average human being speaks about 15,000 words a day. Men, we're probably on the little lighter side than that. Women, you probably speak a few more words than we do. That's 5 million words a year, almost 700 million words in a lifetime. And we take it for granted because we speak so many. We think they're just words. My grandma Ball, beautiful woman, said to me once, Jason, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never. Yeah, Grandma was wrong. Grandma was right about a lot of stuff, but words can stick with you. I have had conversations with people who are 90 years old who still remember something that someone said to them that just hurt. And the flip side, words can breathe so much life into you that it gives you momentum, it gives you a boost of life. Yehuda Berg said it this way, words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. So are you using that force? Especially if you're a child, if you're a follower of Jesus, are you using this incredible gift that you have available to you? Every single person in this room has the gift of communication. It's your superpower. It's just whether or not you're going to use it to its full extent. And sometimes people are thinking, I'm not a communicator. I can't get up in front and speak. You don't need a stage. You don't need 10,000 followers on TikTok. You just need one person at a time speaking words of life, speaking to them like Jesus speaks to you and I. That's the powerful thing, and we take it for granted. We take it for granted because we do it so often. It's like our breathing. How many of us count every breath? We don't keep track of every breath we take, or every move we make, or every bond you break, or the step you take. We just don't. Again, sorry, I need some millennial and under words and phrases. But everybody else in the room knew that was a police song. Every move you make. We know that. But we start to pay attention when we start to get sick. We start to pay attention to our breathing. Our chest starts to hurt, and we're like, oh no, I got to do something about it. Don't let that be like for your communication. When you wake up one day and realize nobody wants to be near you because your words are so harsh, your words are so sharp, your words are so toxic. Again, Proverbs 10:11 paints a beautiful picture. The mouth of a good person is a deep, life-giving well, but the mouth of the wicked is a dark cave of abuse. So do you think of your word, and how do you communicate them? Do you breathe life into people? Do you speak with intention, knowing that what you say, how you say, it can either refresh or crush someone's spirit? Every conversation is a chance to draw from that deep well. Every conversation. So let's be the kind of leaders, parents, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, step-parents, team members that communicate in a way that's life-giving. Because the way you speak shapes the world around you. I like to say it this way, healthy communication is oxygen for your relationships. You want your marriage to soar? Breathe healthy communication into your marriage. You want your relationship with your mom to get better? Breathe healthy communication into it. And we think sometimes, oh, words aren't a big deal. Here's how big of a deal words are to the God of the universe. All throughout Genesis, if you were to go through Genesis, you would see these words, and God said, and God said, and God said. And in all these verses in Genesis, he speaks things into existence. That's how powerful the God of the universe views words. When he created the world, he did not ask ChatGPT, hey, how could I make the world? He didn't go to Pinterest. He didn't go to Instagram. He didn't Google it. The God of the universe spoke, and let there be light. And there was light. That's how powerful our words are. When the God of the universe created everything, he used words. Words create. And since you and I are made in the image of God, our words create. So my challenge to you this morning is this: speak life. Build trust. Speak with people, not at them. Speak life. When you speak life, you'll build trust. And you do that by speaking with people, not at them. So let's just ask the question. Let's get real personal between you and I. Do you speak with or do you speak at? Speaking at builds walls. It interrupts. It breaks the connection. It creates distance. It's damaging. It pushes away. We start to wonder why we're not connecting. Our trust feels low. Our relationships feel stuck. It's because speaking at is a dark cave of abuse. People start to brace whenever we're around because they don't know what we're going to say. A bunch of years ago, 8 years ago actually, my wife and I went to China for 3 weeks. We adopted a little boy from China, and we got to go. And in China, there's the Great Wall. And this, I love architecture. I could talk about, just the architecture of this alone, but it's, 13,000 miles. It's just massive, 30 meters wide in some parts. You can see it from space. It's just absolutely huge. Here's the thing. The wall that you put up between you and someone else when you speak at them is bigger than this wall. Because when you speak at people, you break the connection. Like Pete said, I was a pastor for 26 years. 26 years. Now I view myself as a minister in the marketplace. I started a business called Speak with People, and I get to go into companies like many of you work for, and I do communication workshops. I help them learn how to deal with conflict, and then their salespeople, I help them learn how to do presentations and pitch things. I love it. I get to go into workplaces in a way that I never did when I was a pastor, and both have just been very honoring experiences. That's been absolutely incredible. But one of the things that I get to do is I get to help leaders kind of figure out what are some of those unhealthy communication behaviors that are inside of me. And there's 10 that we've identified. And so I'm gonna let you see them. These 10, if you do these over and over and over, you're gonna build that massive wall and nobody's gonna want to be near you. And so here they are. Lack of clarity. When you speak, it's just vague and confusing. If you have to keep saying, does that make sense? Does that make sense? It probably doesn't make sense. No, it probably doesn't. You've got to learn how to be clear in what you're trying to say. Some of us, we use poor word choice. Careless, harsh, vague, or confusing words. These can damage people. We're not interested in stories. The human brain longs for story. And so, a little shameless plug, I apologize, but I have a book coming out in the fall called Speak with People, not at them. It's kind of the thing that I talk about. And in it, one of the chapters is to be a story catcher. We all love watching stories. Netflix shows us that. Like, I could go to your phone and be like, how many minutes do you watch on Netflix or Hulu or whatever? We love stories. How many books do you read? And you read the stories. But the reality is not many of us are story catchers. And the research shows us that when you sit with somebody one-on-one and you listen to their story and you actually dial in and remember their story, you build unlimitless trust with them because you're listening to their story. Another one, no laughter. One of my favorite authors, Ken Davis, he said, laughter entered the world when the stone was rolled away. Right? The hope entered the world. Laughter is this amazing opportunity to build trust with people, but sometimes life's hard and it beats us down and we stop laughing. Sometimes we ask boring questions. Mom and dad's in the room. What do your kids say when you say, how was school? Yeah, look at the enthusiasm in this room. Like, you guys just crushed it. Yeah, you know why? Because that's a horrible, boring question. Instead of asking questions like that, ask them about how they feel about certain things. How did you feel when Mrs. So-and-so did this? Wow, they'll start to talk in a whole different way. Instead of asking someone, where'd you grow up? I'll say Detroit. Conversation's kind of over. If I say, how do you feel about where you grew up? Oh, well, I feel scared because it was Detroit. And I'll tell you why. But I had my friend over on 8 Mile. No, he was not my friend. But we've got to ask better questions. Then we're unattentive. Any of you, when you're in conversations, do this? Research shows us that we pick this thing up 350 times a day. And if you want to immediately break the connection between you and another human being, show this more attention than them. It's just what will happen. It's just amazing. We're impatient. Anybody suffer with impatience? I sure do. I'm rushing from one thing to another. When we're impatient, it breaks up our conversation. We're apathetic. We have a lack of empathy. We're unhealthy, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then we're inauthentic. We just keep trying to be somebody else. These, if you do these over and over and over again, trust me, you're going to live a life speaking at people, and you're not going to have many people that are going to be there with you. James actually says it this way in the New Testament. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is also set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Shoo-wee. For some of us who are like, yeah, words aren't a big deal. Boy, Scripture sure paints it a little differently, doesn't it? So the drive that you and your spouse were having, you got frustrated with each other, and then things got out of hand, and somebody said a sarcastic comment, and then somebody said a passive-aggressive comment, and then you just went silent for the next 20 minutes, and you were trying to catch your breath. That's a perfect way the enemy uses words, because he wants your communication to break. He wants your communication to break. Your boss asks you to do something, you haven't done it yet. Instead of just saying, hey, I haven't done it yet, you avoid them, you're all over the place because you don't want to communicate. That's why communication is so incredibly powerful. We all have these moments where we let our words and our tongues get out of control. A bunch of years ago, I took my family to Universal Studios in Florida for vacation. We're so excited. We're walking around Hollywood Studios. And my wife and our older kids, we have 4 older kids, and then we have a young one. They want to go ride a ride. And my youngest one, Kai, who we adopted from China, Kai has autism. He's on the spectrum. Kai also has a rare genetic disease called PKU. There's a lot to that. And Kai just kind of walks to the beat of his own drum. So they go off to the rides. Kai and I are walking around, and he's just yelling, I don't want to be here. I hate this place. I don't want to be here. Now, if you've never adopted someone that looks different than you, and they walk around a theme park yelling they don't want to be there, other parents start to look at you like, are you this boy's father? And so finally, Kai and I go into a bathroom, and we didn't break any toilets, don't worry. But bathrooms are really difficult for Kai because he has all these sensory disorders. And one of them is just loud noises. And so anytime we go near a men's bathroom and there's a blow dryer, Kai would tell you it's like sticking knives in his ears. It hurts so bad. And for years, I was like, well, okay, it doesn't happen to me, so, whatever. Till finally I woke up one day and I went, no, I gotta take this seriously. And so we rush in to make sure nobody's using the blower, and we're getting to rush out, and there's another dad and a son in a stall, and it's obvious that the son's probably 6 or 7, probably Kai's age, and the son's just throwing up. And the dad says to his son, why did you have to do this today? You couldn't have got sick any other day. I've been saving for years to make this special for our family, and you've ruined it. And this little boy, in between throwing up, he just says, I'm so sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. Now listen, I'm not the Superman of words. If I were to put up the list of stuff that I've said to my kids when I didn't want to, stuff that I said to my spouse, other human beings, but When you and I have the opportunity to choose life with our words, we have to take that opportunity. Speak life, build trust, speak with people, not at them. When you speak with people, you reflect the heart of Jesus and you build unbelievable trust. And this is the shift. Just isn't about better communication. It's about choosing empathy and presence and connection in every word and every relationship. Because every opportunity you have to speak to another human being on planet Earth is a divine appointment, because that other human being was created in the image of God, just like you were created in the image of God. And so it's this amazing connection piece that you get to talk to, learn from, be challenged by. And so we've got to take every opportunity that we can. And your words have the power to breathe life or to cause harm. And how you use them reveals what's happening in your heart. And we see this so clearly in Jesus. In John chapter 4, there's just this beautiful example of when Jesus lives this out. And so John chapter 4, the verse is on the screen. I'll read it to you. It says, "So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph." Again, these two names are like Old Testament heroes, all-stars. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. All the little pieces of information are fascinating. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink? Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew. I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews and Samaritans don't associate. So here's what's happening. Jesus leaves Judea. He heads to Galilee, but he has to pass through Samaria. Most Jews would go around. He doesn't. No right-minded Orthodox Jew would ever go through Samaria. Why? Because get this, Jews called the Samaritans dogs. They actually called them unclean dogs. They hated the Samaritans. Samaritans hated the Jews. There's a lot to this. Racism, bigotry, lots of history of yucky stuff. But this is just a place that Jews avoid, but Jesus doesn't avoid it. He doesn't avoid the tough conversation. He doesn't avoid the conversation with the quote-unquote unclean person. He doesn't avoid the conversation with the quote-unquote least lost and the last. He just doesn't. It is so easy for me to only have conversations with people who believe the same things that I do. It makes it so much easier. Or who think I'm funny. I'm traveling with my 21-year-old son. As hard as I could try, he's just like, "Yeah, you're kind of funny, whatever." It's great when I come place, like somebody in the lobby was like, "You're the funniest person I've ever met, and you look just like Matt Damon." I was like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you." They didn't say either of that, but it just made me feel really good. So if any of you want to say that to me. But that's the crazy thing. We sometimes purposely only communicate with people who believe say the same thing. But Jesus, he doesn't purposely avoid the people who are different from him. So he sits down at this well at the time that he knew she would be coming, because this is a divine appointment. This is a divine appointment. Well, the older I get, the more I just talk to strangers. I'm just like my grandfather. It drives my 17-year-old daughter crazy. Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're people. And so yesterday in the airport, I saw a guy with a Detroit Tigers hat on. And I'm like, "Are you a Detroiter?" And he's like, I was. So we had this whole conversation about the Detroit Tigers. And I walked away. I just like, oh man, I met another person. So is there someone at your work you avoid because the beliefs are different or their culture is different? Jesus didn't avoid those people. He went to Samaria because at 12 p.m. there's a woman coming to the well, and he had to cultivate a life-giving relationship with her. What's also important to know about the city of Sychar, it was ancient and it was the capital city of the Samaritans. And so this is an important place. So again, there's no happenstance in here. Jesus had an absolute plan. This is the place where Abram in the Old Testament first came when he arrived to Canaan from Babylonia. This is where God first appeared to Abram in Canaan, and he renewed the promise of giving the land to him and his descendants. This is where Abram built an altar and called upon the name of the Lord. This is where Jacob came safely when he returned with his wives and children in Genesis 33. This is where Jacob bought a piece of land from a Canaanite for 100 pieces of silver. This is where Jacob built an altar to the Lord and where we get Jacob's well. This is the plot of ground that Jacob gave his son Joseph. This is where the bones of Joseph were buried. This is where Joshua made a covenant with Israel. This is a huge location. This is an important place. And Jesus knew that because he had a divine appointment with an important person. This isn't happenstance. It was divine. And when you cultivate relationships with people different from you, those are divine appointments. When you cultivate relationships with people who are close to you, those are divine appointments. Jews didn't get along with the Samaritans. Samaritans didn't get along with the Jews, but they both loved Jacob. That's the interesting part of this. Jacob was the father of the Jews and the Samaritans. The Samaritans accepted the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And so he met with the woman on common ground. And he met her in a place of agreement, the place of agreement that was scripturally related. All of those important things happened there, and they both loved Jacob. He met her at a place they could both agree on. And this is where it gets so crazy. This is where it gets ridiculous. Jesus wants a drink of water. He's God, but he also is in a human form, and he's submitted to those human limitations. So he was thirsty, and he asked this Samaritan woman. A couple things. One, it was odd she was alone. But she was there getting water, and Jesus spoke to her. She's probably alone because none of the other women want to be associated with her. And we find out more about her story later, and that's probably why. And so it's kind of crazy for her and him in the sense that he's talking to a Samaritan and a woman. By tradition, a rabbi would not speak to a woman in public, not even his own wife. So Jesus wasn't surprised by all of this, but the woman was. Why are you speaking to me? Then in John 4, 10 to 12, it says this, Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God, and who is it that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank for himself, as did also his sons and his livestock? We could talk for weeks about all of the things happening in this passage of Scripture, but I wanted you to see how extraordinary this is, because Jesus models speaking with people, and specifically people who are different, people who are excluded, people who are not appreciated, people who are not loved. And this is what we learn from Jesus. He initiated with dignity, not dominance. Oftentimes we speak at people, you will listen to me, you will behave, you will this, and we come in with dominance and not dignity. But Jesus chose to speak with her, breaking cultural barriers, social barriers. He didn't preach at her. He started with a simple question, will you give me a drink? Then we learned from Jesus, he personalized the conversation. As the conversation progressed, Jesus gently revealed that he knew her full story. Her past relationships, her pain, her reality, but he doesn't shame her. He leads with empathy and then truth. Then we learn from Jesus, he guided her towards discovery, not compliance. He didn't lecture her with a one-size-fits-all sermon. He used the metaphor living water, and he asked questions. He responded to her, and he invited her into something greater. And then we learn it led to transformation and influence. She went back to her town. She's like, you got to come see a man who told me everything I did. Could he be the Messiah? The Jews knew all about the Messiah because he's prophesied all through the Old Testament. The Old Testament really, right, all 37 books is really only about one thing. Someday the Messiah will come. And then the New Testament, right, 27 books, it's all about one thing. The Messiah came. In Matthew 1:21, where it says the Messiah will come and he will forgive you from your sins. I mean, this is what happens. This is the powerful thing that happened. And so she wants everybody to know. And Jesus just didn't talk to her. He spoke with her, honoring her story, listening deeply, offering truth and love. That's a model for every single person in this room to follow. So, What if you've been maybe falling on the speak at side for a while? What if you've destroyed some relationships with your kids and they don't want to talk to you anymore? Teenagers, young adults, what if you've said some things to your parents that you haven't been able to get over your pride enough to ask for forgiveness? If you oversee people in your workplace, maybe you've said some things that, okay, let's start fresh today. Let's start fresh, especially those of you in this room who have trusted in Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. If you said, God, I acknowledge that you are the Father of everything, your Son Jesus, he is who he said he was. He died on the cross for my sins. I've repented. I've asked for his forgiveness. Jesus rose again from the dead. He's provided this amazing salvation. I believe in him. I've trusted him with everything that I confess with my mouth. I believe in my heart, like Romans 10:9 and 10 says. Okay, today, forgiveness is real. And so ask God to forgive you for those past. And now let's strive to look forward to heal those relationships. And it may take time. But today, let's turn a different page. So how do we do this? One, let me challenge you this way. Speak from a healthy heart. Speak from a healthy heart. Jesus says in Matthew 12:34, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if your words are toxic, if they're angry, if they're bitter, if they're frustrated, guess what? Something's going on inside. And some of us, we've been beat down by life. Some of us have been hurt by people. Some of us have just experienced so much hardship. But today is the day. God offers hope and he offers healing. And so if your heart is cluttered with stress, bitterness, pride, fear, your words are going to reflect that. So let the God who created everything renew your heart so your words can give life. There's a psalm, Psalms 51, verse 10 says, create in me a clean heart, oh God. Pray that every day. God, today, create in me a clean heart. God, help me forgive. Help me move through this bitterness. Help me move through this. Help me move through this frustration that I'm not where I want to be. Do a heart inventory. What's fueling your words? Do absolutely everything you can to speak from a healthy heart. Then, two, speak with intentional presence. Speak with intentional presence. James 1:19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. That's tough for some of us, right? It's tough for me. I got the answer. Let me tell you what's cool. Let me tell you a story. But people feel seen, heard, and valued when you speak with them, when you listen with them. And so be with them. Presence communicates worth. Whether you're face-to-face, you're on Zoom, you're over a screen, a text message. Remember this about words, just to give you a little research here. In your one-on-one conversations, only 7% of that, 7% is the words that I say out of my mouth. Only that, 7%. So it's just the words. 38% is your tone. So those of you who don't think your tone matters, you haven't parented a preteen yet or a teenager, but tone matters, right? Tone speaks a lot. If my tone is angry, if my tone is frustrated, you have an incredible instrument in your voice. Use it wisely. And then 55% is your body language. It's how you come across. There's a great poet years ago that said, your body is a wonderland. He's probably speaking of something else. But it's true. Like you have one body to be able to use to communicate with. And so how do you communicate with your body? Are your shoulders slumped? Do you walk into a room fearful and your head down? Do you use the universal sign of defensiveness when somebody starts to talk to you? Anybody know what it is? Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Look at this room. Everyone's crossing their arms. That's great. We know it well. Some of us, I'm getting comfortable now. Some of us, it's comfortable. It really is. Like, I don't mean to get defensive. I've been standing here for a while, and this helps me balance. But it just signals something with someone. And so know how it works when you look at somebody. Don't stare at them like too awkwardly, too long, but give them a break. Be able, to do those things. Some of us, we do conversations this way. We're talking to someone. Okay, keep going. Okay, yeah, okay, Or we do this with our Apple Watches. We're not connected with them. If you really want to speak with people, if you want those connections to be deep, you want the trust to build deep, and you want to be able to breathe life into them, be used by God, then be connected to them. Be there with your presence. Jesus slowed down for people. So should we. Put down your phone. Make eye contact. Be fully with someone. 5 kids, oldest 25, down to 11. When my 17-year-old daughter was 3, all of our kids were toddlers. We just stressed communication all the time. We'd be at a restaurant. If they didn't look at the waiter or waitress, we would say, okay, let's stop. Now you've got to look at the waiter when you order. And I would say to them all the time, when you speak to adults, when you speak to friends, you look them in the eye. We did this all the time. So one day I'm playing with Maddie. She's 3 years old. We're playing Barbies or some type of dolls. And about 30 seconds in, I start dialing it in. She's got this whole story. Let's go up here to the mountain. Let's do this. And I'm like, And all of a sudden, my phone buzzes. So I start to look at it. And she's still going with the whole story. And I'm just doing, And finally, she stops. I didn't even recognize it. I'm just saying, because I'm looking at my phone. And she takes my phone, and she puts it down. She takes those cute little hands, 3-year-old cute little hands, puts them on my cheek, and she moves my face eye to eye. So our noses are touching. And she said, Daddy, when you talk to someone, you look them in the eye. I was like, all right, that's it. Maddie, absolutely, that's it. Here's the reality. You've got to be diligent with this. Look for every opportunity and maximize it. There's not one person on the planet who's walking around going, I don't need encouragement. I don't need kind words. All of our encouragement tanks are probably pretty low. There's not one person I've ever come to that's like, you know what, you don't got to encourage me today. I'm like, I just topped it off. That's just not the case. So be present with people. Encourage them. Use kindness. Use Christ's example. Read through John chapter 4 tonight and tomorrow and Tuesday and learn how Jesus spoke with the woman at the well. And then lastly, I just want to encourage you with this. Speak words that build, not break. Proverbs 18:21 says words are neutral. They either plant seeds of trust or splinters of harm. For years, I traveled around the country and I spoke in assemblies for middle school and high school students. And so if you ever want to feel real good about your life, stand in front of 800 middle schoolers because it is a fun crowd. They will tell you really quickly. And so I would do this illustration with toothpaste, and I'd bring up 3 kids. And each would have a tube of toothpaste at a table. And I would say, okay, guys, on the count of 3, you got to get all the toothpaste out of the container. And they would look at me, fun. And so we'd say 1, 2, 3, and then people are squeezing it out. And, it's just a mess. And people are cheering. And then I would say, okay, the game's not over. Now you have to get the toothpaste back in the tube. And they're all, one kid's trying to do it all over. And there's like an engineer kid who's trying to. The reality at the end of the game was it's impossible to do it. And I would then relay that to our words. Our words are so easy to come out of our mouth. But it is really difficult to get them back. And it takes years sometimes to rebuild that trust. So be absolutely careful with your words. Proverbs 15:4 says, kind words heal and help. Cutting words wound and maim. So let me close with this. Treat every conversation you can as an opportunity to speak with people. You don't need a platform to change the world. You just need a mouth willing to speak life. We've all said the wrong thing. We've all spoken at people, sometimes with sarcasm, frustration, with our own pain. But what if today marked the moment that you became more intentional? What if today you walked into every conversation and said, I'm going to speak with this person, fully present, deeply kind, radically honest, rooted in love? Because here's the truth. No one here today doesn't need that kind of conversation. I talk a lot of fun about my father-in-law. But this man, who I thought I had to be so afraid of, him and my mother-in-law have fostered over 40 children with special needs. They had 3 of their own. They fostered 40, and they adopted 5, all with some type of special need, severe cerebral palsy. I've watched them care for children who nobody else would spend any time with. And my father-in-law is this amazing man of God because he chooses to live it out. And so you and I today, start with one person. Speak with them. Jesus did it at a well. You can do it at a kitchen table. You don't need to break someone's toilet in order to do it. You could do it over Zoom. You could do it over coffee. You could do it as sideline at your kid's game. But one conversation at a time, that's how we change the world. Speak with people, not at them. Let me pray for you. God, we just come before you today, and we thank you so much for this time together. God, we thank you for this opportunity to just slow down and to worship you. God, we thank you for this morning where we can have conversations with people who will encourage us, who will challenge us, who will call us out on stuff. God, and we thank you for this time where we can open up your word. And so, Father, today, many of us struggle with our words. But may we be Jesus. May we speak words of life that breathe life into this world who desperately need it. God, we thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.